again. Now we've been through this before, and I'm tired. I'm tired. Sick and tired of the same old thing over and over.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for tuning in to WillPower UnSurfaced. I'm your host, Khadijah Sams, along here with my co-host, Baynes. And today we are going to bring you WillPower UnSurfaced, a little bit more structure. So today our 4 topics we will be talking about today are Jada Pinkett and the Will Smith entanglement issue. Then we'll be talking about Byron Allen versus Comcast Supreme Court decision. Our third topic we'll be talking about is the Pennsylvania election results, and they were not released yet. And then our fourth topic we'll be talking about the missing 4-year-old from North Philadelphia. Now, for my Facebook Live friends, I would ask that you please go on YouTube and watch the podcast from Glockaware Radio on YouTube. The Glockaware Radio YouTube or the Glockaware Radio app you can download on the phone. I'll be using my phone sometime during the podcast to get some information, so I may not be able to continuously be live on the podcast on my phone. But as I had stated to you guys before, if you were to watch the podcast on YouTube, you will be able to see me and Dawn's beautiful faces at the same time, as opposed to half of our faces on each of our phones. Well, Dawn got a little bit better shot than me, so if you are a Facebook friend with me and a Facebook friend with Dawn, I would suggest that you watch it off of her page. But go ahead, Dawn, take it away.
Okay. Well, oh, goodness. Good evening. Excuse me if I'm moving around a little bit. My legs are short, so I'm trying to get comfortable here. First of all, let me say happy birthday to my bestie today, Tanya Howard. So just want to say happy birthday, girlie. I love you, appreciate you. She's been my friend since 1984. We've been rolling since 1984. You know, that's few, far, and in between that friendships last that long. But I'm thankful for all of my friends but that's my heart. I love everybody. That is my heart. That's my bestie. But anyway, let's talk about this entanglement issue here. You know, it's interesting to see everybody's perspective on social media and how they feel about this entanglement. I don't know exactly the particulars. I never heard of this young man, August. I don't even know what his last name is. Alcina, okay. From my understanding, this young man was filled with grief, addiction. He was a parent because I think his mother died and his brother died, whatever the case may be. So life had happened. It hit him pretty hard. Okay, fine. So some people say Jada was a predator. She's a predator. I'm not going into that. Some people say she's a narcissist. I'm not going into that. But what I find interesting throughout the whole thing, I'm grateful that her and Will have this line of communication and this safety net where they can come and sit down and talk and not, judge each other, that they really listen and hear each other out. And that's so necessary and so needed. But Jada said something where she spoke of codependency. So if you look at her relationship with Will and you look at her past relationship with Tupac, it's like they're two totally separate personalities. Right. So here you got Tupac, nice 1 minute, then Tupac can switch up in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. So then you got Will, who might be a little more even keel. So maybe she felt like, when she said she felt like she felt alive again. So you really had to listen to really what she was saying. So if she felt alive again, what part of her felt dead? Right. Because it's not Will's responsibility to make you happy. It's your own.
Right, absolutely.
So it's the difference between Tupac was the she felt needed because of the healer that's in her. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
Tupac had issues. So here we are. We got this, this guy has issues. This one is more even kill. So maybe she felt like being a healer and superwoman to Tupac. And maybe August was a representative of Tupac with all of his issues.
Right.
He needed her. Will doesn't need her.
Absolutely. Okay. I
You see what I'm
feel
saying?
it. I feel it. I feel it.
It's just really interesting. So this says, did you really marry him? If you're gonna marry somebody, yes, you should be in love with them, and not just love them. So we know that Will loves her because something that he said that I find so profound, because I said this to someone myself, that no matter what we go through, as long as we love each other and we are in love with each other, there's nothing we can't get through. And when he said on his wedding day that he promised her that he would love her through anything, girl, that's heavy.
That's real heavy.
That's heavy, because this is my thing. You have to have some kind of condition, some kind of boundary with it. And just because I love you unconditionally does not give you license, liberty, or a free pass to become a repeat offender.
Right.
Okay.
To take advantage of situations of my kind heart and nature.
Exactly, because the more you hurt me, now I'm in turn the more you do things to me, it's hurting me, and I'm internalizing it. So now I gotta make a decision, because
Right.
your selfishness is showing up.
Yeah.
Something to think about. So, I was a guy, he had made a comment about that particular statement, what Will said, and he said, how many of us would really be able to handle somebody who loved us, who loves us unconditionally, who can love us through anything? I said, that's the problem. You ain't ready. Why? Because you'd rather be a superhero to the one who's going to make you feel needed, because
Right.
the one who's doesn't have all the chaos, and the chaos in itself, you think that's what you need, or you think that's making you happy, when in all actuality, it's not. It's draining.
Let me tell you something about chaos. Sometimes when people are in relationships, when they come into a relationship that is not as chaotic as a relationship that was before, they feed off of it.
It makes them feel.
It makes them, like you said, it makes them feel wanted and
and
needed.
alive, because
Right,
he's breathing
right.
life into them. Now, and for Jada, you gotta remember, her kids they were getting older. So this just happened 4 years ago. Her kids are getting older.
Right.
Will is busy. He's off doing his own thing. She's doing her own thing, but something caught her eye. So we 50-year-old women, and something gonna catch your eye. she just said, "Oh Lord!" And then when she had heard about that, he put the young lady in the hospital, because he tore up a stomach.
Well, I heard about it.
So she said, "I want parts of that." She caught him in his most vulnerable state, and she just said, "I'm gonna go for this," and messed that young man's head up. He ain't got it right yet.
She was trying to see something.
She was trying to see something. She found out because he made her feel alive in more than one way.
Mm-hmm. Leave them kids alone, Jada.
Leave them kids alone. So again, are we ready? That's something, and I think this is where I'm going with it, to figure out and not settle. Because if you're used to chaos, then find people who are chaotic and stay away from those who are
Yes.
even keel.
Yes.
Because you gotta find, this is the thing, and I honestly believe this. You don't find people who are compatible. You need to find people who complement you, because your yin and your yang, you gotta find
Yes.
the person
Yes.
who balances
Yes.
you out.
Yes.
Because
That is so
oftentimes
true.
you get with, if you got some chaos within yourself, you're trying to fight, and then you hook up with somebody who's chaotic.
It's a
not
whole
gonna
bunch-
work. It's a whole bunch of
It's a whole bunch
it's
of chaos.
fireworks, bam, boom, every day.
All
It's
day.
no good. It's not good for you emotionally.
All day.
It's mentally. It's just. It's draining.
Draining.
It's draining. So don't settle. Don't allow yourself to get caught up in these. It ain't even an entanglement. I'm like, Will, be honest. It's a relationship. It wasn't even a situationship.
It was
that
tanglement.
was a relationship.
Entanglement.
Okay, it was a tanglement.
Tangling a
Child,
little
listen
bit.
here. Listen, I think I might want to get in. Let me go get entangled. Let me go find me an entanglement.
Hey,
we all at,
well.
brothers. We at. Inbox me. You ready for an entanglement? Inbox me. But it's just
Only
really
thing-
interesting. And as a Libra, and I know most times, they say we're unbalanced. No. But most times Libras
Y'all
are
pretty
balanced.
much even kill.
We pretty much even kill.
Yeah.
So this I'm like, okay, when you look at, again, her dating history, she was in love with Tupac. Tupac needed
Yeah.
her. He needed to
He had
nurture her.
because he had so much, his own. Because he came up when his mom was a Black Panther.
Right.
That she was a user and all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of time that he missed. Not that she wasn't there, but you know what I'm saying. And a lot of times they be looking for their mother. They be looking for their
So here's
mom.
the nurturer. This is her.
You know what
That's
I'm saying?
her. Here she comes.
Right.
She's the nurturer. So we go from his raps. The queens. Black women are queens. And next time it's a bitch. So you know what I mean? So she could
That's his split
center him.
personality.
Yeah. She was able to center him. So then you get with somebody who's a Libra, who's more even keel, and you don't feel like you're as needed as much. So it's like, to me, I never liked them two together, her and Will. It was just, I like Jada, but I just felt like she wasn't the right one for him from the beginning. So I'm not gonna say, if you shouldn't have married him if you wasn't in love. I don't believe in that bad marriage for life again. So my
Right.
unconditional love, it's not a license or liberty for you to keep hurting me. It's not. It'll never be, because when you do that, that's when I gotta take the reins and say, hey, this is more harmful than it is hurtful,
right.
and helpful. So I gotta move on. So I feel bad because the face, and some people say he was acting. I don't give a rat's tail. But he looked tired. He looked drained. And who wants to relive something that happened 4 years ago? And although they were on a break, they went their separate ways. You best believe Will was out here doing his thing, but the girl ain't gonna say it. The girl or the girls, women aren't gonna open their mouth.
Right.
And see, that's the thing. She messed with that young guy. She messed with his head, and he done ran his darn mouth. If you gonna be the side Negro or the side chick, then you shut up.
Shut it.
Shut up. As they say, stay in your
Shut it
lane.
up.
Know your
Exactly.
place.
Stay in your
But
lane.
again,
Stay in
do
your
not
lane.
allow yourself to get in these situations and these entanglements and really feel.
Did you really doing
What?
So you gonna use entanglement? So
Well,
you
no, I'm
just gonna
saying-
take and just
get in these
'cause I'm gonna have to
relationships.
do a will on you. Nah.
Get in these relationships, these relationships, it's no good to any of us. It's no good to yourself. But what's most important, and I really want people to really take away from this, look at your own stuff. You got an opinion about Will and Jada, but look at what you're in. You got your own entanglement going. Get the hell out of it. Because
Yes.
you're miserable, he's miserable, she's miserable. Move on,
The
make a
side
decision.
chick-
The side chick miserable. Everybody unhappy. Make a decision and say, you know what? This is not how I'm going to live my life. Sit down. Y'all have a conversation. Y'all start conversing and be open and be. I'm big on that. Anybody that ever dated,
Right.
that I ever dated, they will tell you. If you do something I don't like, I'm going to talk about it. Most of them will shut down on me, don't want to hear what I got to say. And I don't cuss at you, any of that. But I tell you what you did wrong. I tell you what's working and what's not working. If we can't fix it, then guess what? It's best we go our
Right,
separate
right.
ways. So, that's what I'm saying. Now is the perfect time. We're in quarantine. We're semi-quarantine. Now's the perfect time to reevaluate the relationship you're in and take it by the reins and say, this isn't beneficial. This isn't working for me. I got to go. Don't try to sit there and make something work that's not working. Why? Because you're going to be sitting there looking like Will. And Jada, she's sitting there all dressed, relaxing, and peaceful. Shoot, child, she ready to go find her another youngin. So,
To have an entanglement.
to have another entanglement with. Truth be told, but that's how I honestly feel about it. Her codependency issues were present. Wasn't narcissism. That was a codependency issue. She
Right.
needed to feel needed. She needed to feel wanted. She needed to feel alive. And unfortunately, some of us are not feeling alive unless we're serving in a position of service to someone. So do not allow this to be you. And if that is you, set some parameters, set some boundaries. Set some boundaries, because if not, you're going to do more harm to yourself. And then you got to think about it. Always think about the other person's feelings. And most people think about the husband and the wife or the boyfriend and the girlfriend, but what about the third party? That person has feelings too. Were they
Absolutely.
deceived? Were they deceived?
Because you never know, like, sometimes, with these situations, the other person don't know.
True.
what the real situation is, because you only know what someone tells you.
Exactly.
Especially if you're not close to that situation, so you don't really know what's going on.
Exactly.
So you were liable to get yourself caught up in a triangle that you didn't actually sign up for.
And you know, it's just,
You didn't sign up for the triangle.
And unconditional love does not mean that you deceive me, that you lied to me. You know, if you want a DL, all that kind of stuff, honey, you better run to the darn divorce attorney's office ASAP. I don't care if it's man or woman. Run.
Quick.
Run. Quick. That is not a condition for you to stay there and take that. Again, unconditional love is not a license or a free pass to hurt me repeatedly, to become a repeat offender. It is not. It has never been designed for that. You are not a doormat. Don't let anybody walk all over top of you. Pick yourself up, hold your head up, and move. Delete the number, delete the thread, and keep it moving.
Keep it moving.
You
Because
know.
guess what? If you just let go, don't be afraid to let go when it ain't working. If it ain't working, you just got to let it go, because you're never going to find what works if you hold on to something that's not working. You're just going to find yourself hurt over and over again.
Over and over.
Caught up in entanglements or their entanglements, and you making up for it or
And
making excuses
exactly. You keep making
for
like,
them.
yo,
And
come on, what?
You
This
know,
is
'cause
where
that's-
you got
that's
to
what
become a
ends up
little
happening
selfish
sometimes.
and put you first, because apparently they're selfish because the only thing they worry about is themselves, and that was a selfish move to me on her part.
but to say it was an entanglement.
That's part of the selfishness,
Right.
because you don't want to call it what it is. You had a
Because this is the thing. If you feel bad, you should probably feel bad if you went outside your marriage or whatever the case. They wasn't actually together, so maybe she don't have to feel bad. But don't sugarcoat the shit either. Don't say it was
It wasn't no
the young
entanglement.
boy and
Girl,
he
you slept with that boy. You rocked this world,
and
okay?
and that was that, and that's what happened. And I'm sorry that I did that. You know, we had our moment, and you know, go forth from that way. But to not accept what it actually is, that's something
And then
totally
again,
different.
they were separated, but he's reliving it because now it's apparent, it's out in the open.
Because somebody
what
right.
happened. And
Because now he has to. Because now, in this day and age of social media, as soon as you put it out there, it's gone. It's gone, and now it has to be addressed. Now it's going to have to be addressed. Why? Because Jada got her little red talk table where she brings people to the table
I'm
to
bringing
talk
myself
about.
to the table.
So now
Girl, bye.
she had to bring herself to the table. So now she got to look him in the face. And I'm gonna be perfectly honest with y'all. I did not watch the whole entanglement thing. Dawn watched it.
I did.
But I
did.
saw like bits and pieces of it. It was just, and then I seen like 1,000 entanglement video memes. Because you know you can't. Social media is gonna take everything and go 180 with it. So you already know how it is.
And this is the other thing. How do you deal with somebody who's your children's friend? He's old enough to be.
Oh, I ain't know that. part.
He was friends with her kids.
We're going to take a break
Yeah,
on that
we're gonna
one.
take a break.
We're going to take a break on
yeah.
that one, and we're going to
We'll
come
be
back
right
with our next topic.
This
For
is,
all of my Facebook Live friends that are watching me on Facebook, hi, guys. I need to use my phone. I will ask that you guys go over to Glockaware Radio on the YouTube and look on my Facebook page. You guys can go on the link. There's a link on my Facebook page right now. Tune into the link, and then you can watch the show live while I use my phone, and we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Just enough time to create a funky rhythm that's guaranteed to move the world. Have the party people screaming out, "Go, girl!" It's like Diana Ross, I'm the boss, and those who disapprove, you can go for yours. But to think a girl like me hot is easy to take. Treat me like nail polish, give me a break, 'cause I'm a super female that's called Shantae, and like Hurricane Annie, I'll blow you away. Whenever I'm in a battle, yo, I don't play, so you best go about your way and have a nice day.
We're back. So our second topic today, we're going to talk a little bit about this Byron Allen and Supreme Court decision. Now, I don't know if my viewers are familiar with it, but Byron Allen is a TV mogul, and he has quite a few. He owns the Weather Channel, and he owns the Urban. If I'm not mistaken, it's Urban Television Network, or it's not Urban Television Network. It's another name, but it's a conglomerate of mostly African American shows and things like that. He took Comcast to court, and because Comcast was not allowing him to have his shows on their platform, so he took Comcast to court, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. It went from the local court where they were all the way up to Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court shot it down and sent it back. And, the Supreme Court, let me just say something about the Supreme Court for those who don't know. So Supreme Court justices are chosen usually by the president that's in office. They get to choose a Supreme Court justice, which me personally, I don't think that's fair, but that's either here nor there. They get to choose a Supreme Court justice, and it's usually someone who stands on the same issues that their president stands on. So if the Supreme Court issues are against, just say, abortions, and this presidential candidate, that was one of his platforms, was abortion, he's likely to choose a Supreme Court candidate that runs on his issues. That's in tune. Even though, if you listen, judges are not supposed to be biased. That's one. Judges are supposed to and especially a Supreme Court justice, because their rulings affect constitutional laws. Their rulings can have actual constitutional laws overturned.
Right.
So it is important for a Supreme Court justice, in my eyes, not to be biased, not to have personal opinions, and if they do, how can the president actually elect, or when they're searching for their candidate, know what these justices, personal opinions about? It's because as far as I'm concerned, if a judge is against an abortion, that's a personal opinion. That's
right.
That has nothing to do with their legal profession. So Byron Allen took Comcast to court, and it got all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court overturned it. Now, most people don't realize how important that ruling was. For the Supreme Court to turn this down, so what they did was they sent it back to the First Circuit Court. They sent it back for a lower court where Byron Allen had already took this case at, and they sent it back there. But the Supreme Court ruled against Byron Allen. Their ruling was Byron Allen was stated that Comcast did not bring him on their platform, wouldn't bring his stations on their platform for racial reasons. Mm-hmm. Okay? The Supreme Court used a but-for clause. Now, what this means is, in order for you to say that your job or someone else is not using you, or not hiring you or giving you something based on your race, you have to prove without absolute certainty that this was the reason why they didn't choose you. It has to be somebody has to literally come out and say, we ain't taking your company because it's black and we don't want it.
Right.
Now, everybody knows that it never goes that way.
Right.
There's always some side dooring that goes on. They'll find another way to not get you on their platform.
Right.
They won't say it's because of race, or they won't say, black shows don't bring in as much revenue. You know what I'm saying? Which is basically Comcast really was their argument, was it wasn't because he was black, it was because nobody wants to watch his stuff. That's what they basically what it was basically boiled down to.
Right.
But to top all that off, with this Supreme Court sent it back, and Comcast did not want to have to go back through a lower court and take Byron Allen to, take them back to court all over again for this. So they made a deal. So Comcast finally did make a deal with Byron Allen regarding his stations coming on to their platform. My thing was, that right there shows you that was the reason why they didn't do it. You understand what I'm saying? The Supreme Court didn't throw it out. They just sent it back for them to do it over again. If they felt like it was nothing there, you know, it would have never got as far as it got. But it was always something there. They just couldn't say that was the only reason.
Right.
So that brings us into something that Dawn posted on her Facebook page the other day. She had an article on there about the police in Seattle, and they were stating that what was it? They were going to not hire people of color or fire.
They were
people.
going to get rid of. They were going to downsize to 50% of the police force, and the 50% that would go would be minorities.
Okay.
Blacks and people of color. You know, and my question was, as I said to you, is this legal? And just hearing just that, it appears it is legal. So, and then my thought, when I posted them, I read the article, I'm like, what is the police union saying? If this is in retaliation for the public, the citizens wanting to defund the police, nobody's not saying bankrupt the police. We just want some restructuring and the funds to be funneled and pulled and put somewhere else. That if your budget is $100 million, you only need $50 million, and put the other 50 to where it's really needed. And housing, homeless, education, send it like that. And I just cannot believe that the city, the state, is quiet. This particular city and Seattle, the politicians are quiet on this. How can you be quiet when they're talking about reducing the force by 50% and getting rid of blacks, Latinos, Asians, Jamaicans, whatever it is, that you're going to get rid of these folks? And that's right. But that's right. So you're going to have a police force of all clear people. Now come on, where that's going to fly at? Come on, this ain't the 1800s.
See, they trying to take it back to the
we're not going back there.
See, the thing is, right, for them to even publicly have the audacity to come out and say these things and feel like it's okay to say it, it shows a lot.
Yeah.
It shows you just really how they really feel about their co-workers that are, you know, minorities, and the people that they're supposed to protect and serve as minorities as well. And the thing with the defunding of the police is so funny because that daggone commercial with Donald Trump.
I haven't seen it. Everybody keeps talking about it. I haven't seen it yet.
This commercial, it says, you have reached the police. You have reached 911. For rape, press 1. For murder, press 2. Your response time will be 5 days. And then he says, I'm Donald Trump and I approve this message. And I'm like, really though?
He's an idiot.
He's such a... this is my thing.
He's a real clown. That's
When people say
defund
defund the police, they don't mean take all the money away from the police departments and don't have no money for the cops and for the My thing is, let's just be honest. Statistics state that crime rates are down at least 20%. Although our homicide rates in the city are higher, actual overall crime rates have been lowering for the last few years, okay? So if the crime rates drop, that means less people are being arrested. That means less people are going to jail. Now, a lot of that has to do with a lot of the laws changing on marijuana, because a lot of convictions were petty drug convictions that weren't that much, where they just would get a conviction, and once you have a conviction, it's a conviction. It doesn't look good on you.
Right.
I was smoking a joint. You got a drug conviction. She got caught outside drugs. I mean, and it don't look good on a piece of paper. So, with that being said, because crime rates are dropping, there is room for less money being funneled into policing.
Right.
Okay? Not to say just take all the money away and we don't need police, but there is less money. police get a lot of overtime sometimes for sitting on the corner and they don't be doing nothing. Because I lived on the block where the cops would sit on the corner and somebody got shot right over there. What are you doing? I saw that coming. You were sitting there. So my thing is, if they're not out there working, then they shouldn't be getting overtime to just sit around. You understand what I'm saying? Of course, if they're working hard, they get overtime. But if they're not doing anything, then they don't need overtime. And that's some of the money that can be cut back and use that into PAL, the Police Athletic
Yeah, we
League.
definitely need
How
PAL
about take some of that money and put it into policing community activities? Getting police officers better acquainted with, you know what I'm saying? Something.
Wondered, and I guess I need to look at this. How many officers in a district? How many officers are on duty per shift? In a district. That's something I always wondered because you might see a police car here, car here, whatever. So I'm just really interested to see what it is. Excuse me, that's my somebody text me, but I just really interested to know how many cars are supposed to be out on the street, how many officers are supposed to be, whether you don't even really see beat cops anymore, and we know they usually used the rookies to do beat for a year or whatever.
Right.
So it's just really interesting to me. That's always something I've always wondered. How many is there? I wonder, is it mandated somewhere? Is it part of their policies that if they're supposed to have 40 officers on a shift? And where do you put these people if the neighborhood is really large? So this will, I think, will help to stop them congregating. If they really, they need to be strategic and where the people, you want them to be visible, but you also want them to be engaged and working. So that might be, I don't know, I hate to say you sitting out and you babysitting the game on the court, because we know the shooting's happening at the basketball court or wherever. It could happen anywhere. But I'm just saying, so would they consider the basketball game a hot spot? So you see, it's just interesting how they categorize all of this stuff and say, well, okay, we want you over here, we want you over there. So that's just something maybe I need to add. Darrell, if you're watching this, give me a call, because I want to find out. I got questions.
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, because that would say where the money is going at.
Exactly.
Because this is my thing. You have a lot of police officers, and I'm going to say most police officers are not bad police officers. But then you have police officers that go out and they steal drug money from the drug dealers. And if you guys are getting all this police funding and you still can't pay police a proper salary so that they won't rob drug dealers, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
And in the city, some cops in some suburban areas make more money than the cops do in the city, based on the salaries of the people in their area.
Right.
So say like Lower Merion cops probably make more than Philly cops, but they ain't doing nothing.
Right.
So why they making more? You understand what I'm saying? Like if you in Lower Merion and you riding around the block all day or not, because I'll go out there, I don't hardly ever see a police officer, and you making 75 or 60,000 to start, that's what a Philadelphia cop should make to start, because of the cost of living is high in Lower Merion too. So,
Right.
but my thing is, they ain't really stopping no crime though.
And the Lower Merion,
You know what I'm
it's a
saying? I
greater
mean, I'm
risk
not
of
saying
crime
in the city. Right.
than it is, but then I think,
So city cops would be more apt to have hazard pay,
Right.
as opposed to the cops in areas where they're really not. You can have a guard.
Yeah.
Because one thing I noticed being a school bus driver, there are a lot of police jurisdictions in the suburbs. Now, I drove the school bus in Colwyn. In my travels, there was East Lansdowne Police, there was Yaden Police, Darby Police, Colwyn, Fallcroft, Sharon Hill, Upper Darby, Springfield, Clifton Heights, and there's one other one that's really close. But my thing is, that's 9 police districts within a 15-mile radius. if you cross one side of Main Street, you in Darby, and the other side Coleman. We don't need a police. We don't need a police district for
And
this
Coleman's
side of the
district
street.
is small because it's only Coleman is what, about 10 blocks wide. You know, it's
So if that area, why that all can't be up at Darby? See, that's because everybody they're all getting different funding.
Yeah.
Coleman's getting funded, East Lansdowne's getting funded, Yaten getting funded. And if y'all from these areas, I'm not trying to knock y'all job. I'm just saying, be realistic. I don't need to cross the street and there's another police station across the street, another whole different district that have whole different laws and jurisdiction because it's the Commonwealth.
we're still part of Commonwealth, Pennsylvania.
That makes no sense. I don't need a police station right here and then across the street there's another one. Another district. To me, I don't understand that. To me, that's pointless. And I understand they say, oh well, it's different boroughs, and then they have different city halls, and then y'all need to figure something out.
Yeah, because that's a mess.
Cause that's too much. Oh, I can't go across the street. That's not my. That's messy. And y'all right there near each other. Cause Philadelphia is bigger than like 3 of those boroughs or 4 together, and they only had 1 police district. So a lot of the funding from the states and all of that stuff go to the police and stuff like that. And it's so funny that Donald Trump said that on his on his campaign thingy about the defunding the police, and then he says Joe Biden wouldn't be a good fit because he wants to defund the police, when I actually read somewhere that Joe Biden actually wants to give $200 million to law enforcement, or a whole nice amount of money if he becomes a police officer. So I really ain't, I'm not feeling either one of them. So I'm voting for Kanye.
No!
It's like, and I ain't saying she a gold digger. But if you want to be honest with me, I think Kanye's smarter than Donald Trump.
Kanye is, but that bipolar.
But he's a little crazy. He's a little, he's in a sunken place. I understand.
He shows up, even without him being in a sunken place. That darn bipolar is a whole nother monster of itself. You
like
can't.
the Kanye West that I enjoyed listening to when he first came out is not the Kanye West of today.
He's gone. His mom was his safe place, and his safe place is gone
And
because she gone.
She
so
wouldn't have been having it.
And I think a part of his problem is I think he lives with the regret because it's like he paid for her procedure and she didn't make
right.
it.
So he had this
guilt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not only are you dealing with grief, you're dealing with guilt because you're blaming yourself.
Right.
And then I think that he always was, as intelligent as he is, he's just always been a little different. And nobody really picked up on what that different is. And so once he got depressed, and then something just set him off. It just clicked. There was a disconnection. I'm gonna say a disconnection,
right.
And that's when he was diagnosed with the bipolar. Because it started out just simply grief,
right,
and it just spiraled out. He went somewhere else.
And then who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, that too.
Hey, Faith, yes it is. So it's who you surround yourself with as well. But that's another topic. We'll talk about the election at another time. But I just wanted to go over how that Supreme Court decision could possibly affect, because Dawn wanted to know, like, how could that Supreme Court decision possibly affect what the police in Seattle, what they propose to do. Not to say that they will, but what they so-called propose to do. And like I said, maybe the but-for clause,
hopefully it won't apply. Let's hope that this, and I'm for the unions, but some of these unions, it's just, I have my own issues with some of these unions, but I just really wish that this would be one time that the police union would stand up and fight for their people in this particular instance.
Right.
How in the hell you going to get rid of 50%, propose to get rid of 50% of your force? I don't know how large Seattle is, so that means every district might lose 10 black officers, 10 Spanish officers, 10 Asian officers. Come on, where is this at? And again, and you expect there to be no more retaliation? No more. You expect the citizens not to retaliate again? Because now you have a police force with no diversity, and you expect
None.
the people to respect them and to get along with them, it'll never happen.
Their first, the people's first, what they're going to think at first is they automatically out to get us because they've taken anything or anyone that we're familiar with off the street, and now we see who we've always sometimes seen to be as an oppressor, just to be riding around the streets without having leverage.
That's why I don't think that this was well thought out. And I said to a friend of mine the other day, I would love to see the contingency plan. What's your backup plan in the event that you do this and it turns into pure chaos and mayhem? Because that's exactly what this is going to turn into. Where is
They
your
probably
plan
have
B?
some kind of plan because they always got something.
How do you propose
We just
to
don't know
get
what it
rid of
is.
50% of your force, and that's all of people that represents any particular nationality, any ethnic group outside of those who are Caucasian? It's wrong. It's wrong. I just be balanced. If you're going to get rid of 10 black guys, then get rid of 10 white guys, then get rid of 10 Spanish guys. Be fair across the board, but don't say that you're getting rid of everybody that represents anything diverse that represents diversity. You're getting rid of them. Anybody that got a little shade of brown to them, you getting rid of them. Where is that going to fly? Again, where is it going to fly? And I guarantee you, Seattle will be on fire. They think they're talking about Black Lives Matter.
Actually, in Seattle, they already had like I think it was police headquarters where they quarantined it off and they weren't letting the cops in. Like the cops,
I think they said
yeah, they wouldn't let the cops get to the police station.
Yeah.
But you know, stuff like this happens in other countries all the time.
But we just don't hear about it, or we just ignore it.
No, well, now I see it because I watch certain stuff. So like in China, like when they where was they Tiananmen Park in China, I think it was like years ago, when like they was like fighting against the government and they was out there like, and in America, we really don't, because we're afraid really, because as soon as we go out there, they're already throwing tear gas at regular protesters. So for us to actually want to have like what I guess they call it anarchy, I guess that's what they call it, but we know what would happen. We know what would happen. Because, see, America doesn't have a problem with sacrificing its citizens if they think the cause is great enough. They will blow up the whole block. They've done it here in Philly. They just dropped the bomb on move. I don't care if those people, they felt like they were filthy or they felt like, they didn't like the way these people were living naturally or whatever, and they just took it upon they just bombed these people. They bombed them. They bombed the block and locked a lot of those people up, and a lot of them are still in, a few of them are still in jail. Some of them died, and it's like, if you get out of hand, we will drop a bomb on you. We will tear gas you. We will let the dogs out on you. We will spray you with a water hose, and these are the reasons why people do not trust law enforcement, because there are laws here that state that you can be free with your speech, or you can practice your right to protest, but in the event that you decide to keep it going for too long and we get tired of it, just know we're going to throw some tear gas or we're going to hose you, or that's what's going to happen. And the police chief, as much as a police chief would want to be able to be in control of everything, the police chief can't control every single police officer or law enforcement officer that they oversee. It's not possible. You don't know what's inside people's hearts and minds. You don't know if people have a hidden agenda. You don't know. Sometimes people get these jobs and they already got in their mind when they got these jobs that any chance they get, they're going to do something to somebody.
Undermining is already there. It's already in them.
And, like with George, like back to that George Floyd situation, this guy was not a stranger to him. He knew who he was. Absolutely no doubt he knew who he was. And instead of him just arresting his co-worker, putting him in a car, asking him like what happened in there, he killed them. And this is so, that's That's where the trust
And you know,
level
and
goes.
this is why I say, you know, and if we've mentioned this several times, that we need civil rights attorneys. Our kids are in school.
Yes.
They're pursuing business or psychology or whatever it is that they're pursuing. But we really need some young people who are really passionate and to really take up the civil rights fight. We need attorneys are willing to go to bat for these officers that are across the board that represent this diversity, and
Right.
they're proposing to fire them. So if this goes off without a hitch and nobody says anything, it's a problem. So I don't give a darn if you got to do this pro bono or whatever, because if this flies, then that sets the precedent to happen in other cities.
And it will.
And it will.
As soon as it happens in one
Exactly.
place, you know, the
Exactly.
copycats, because they already want to find a way to do that. You know, there are still lots of police forces in this country that don't have minorities.
That's right.
So it's not uncommon. There are police forces here that don't have minorities on them now, but this would make it more appealing to the ones who actually didn't really want to have one on the force anyway.
And when I read that, I just sat on the bed and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" That's the only thing I could say was like, "Are you kidding me? You're proposing to get rid of 50% of your staff, starting with those people of color. Anybody that represents diversity, you want to get rid of them. Dude, where are they doing?" I'm saying to myself, where are the civil rights attorneys? Where are the employment attorneys?
You know what it is? It's
where's
like
the union?
people, we don't have like those voices that we had in the past, like the Malcolm X's and the Martin Luther Kings and the civil rights people who really were absolutely fearless in their fight of what was right and what was wrong, because people are afraid of retaliation. They know that if I go out there and say this, even if it's the God's honest truth, America ain't never really been in the truth. They still saying Christopher Columbus discovered America. So truth is not in the ingrain of this. I don't care what people say. Morality and truth is not in the ingrain of the fabric of how the constitutions of this country. I'm sorry for anybody who feels differently, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but let's just be perfectly honest. When the laws of this country were written, we weren't even considered to be human beings.
That's right.
And so they had to amend it so we could be one. so you know what I'm saying? They had to put in the amend, like they're going to amend like who you are as a person.
That's right.
So you have to understand that the whole setup, see, the laws were not made to protect us. So the system is not broken. You cannot fix a system that is not broken. So when we come in and we say, oh, this is wrong and this is not right, it's because we are seeing the system as broken. No, the system is not broken. The system is working the way it was designed.
To work.
And then if you fight against a certain thing and they feel like they might want to change a little something, they might amend it, or they might do what the Supreme Court did and say, nah, you can't say it was race. It ain't good enough. They didn't say, nigga, you can't have your show on this station, so it ain't enough. When you know that it is so hard to absolutely prove that race is the cause of a person not being hired. And also, if you look it up on YouTube, because you can, I would suggest that if you really, if you're concerned about that civil rights ruling, that you would look it up. It also makes precedence on people not letting you get a house. If somebody don't want to hire you at a job because of your race, and all these different things. Now it's even harder because they shot it down. That was because it was a significant thing for Byron Allen to bring that to the Supreme Court. A lot of people felt like he shouldn't have brought that issue in the way that he stated it in his legal, filings. That he shouldn't have brought it that way, because it left it open for the Supreme Court to change the law and make it harder for you to say, I'm not being hired because of my race. By him, it was like he opened up a can of worms, and now it's like they shot it down.
Right.
So now now pretty much anybody can just say, we're not hiring you. Well, they're not going to say we're not hiring you because you're black.
Right.
But you came here with the braids. You wasn't qualified.
Right.
But they were doing that anyway. But now it's like, Oh, the Supreme Court really is for us. So, and that goes back to local elections. Local elections. You know what I'm saying? Because judges are important. They are the key to the judicial system in your local area. The judges. So when we vote in, the judges, senators, your state senators, and I think every state gets like 2 state senators that represents them in Washington. These are the people that we really should be voting for. We go on and on about Joe Biden, Donald Trump, blase, but your local senators,
Because
your
in
local
Orange
judges,
County, for the presidential election, it doesn't go by the popular vote.
No.
Again, it goes by the electoral
Electoral,
vote.
yes.
So this is why it's really crucial that you vote in the local election, because this is where your voice really counts. You can skip the darn presidential election. Vote for get these career politicians out who are ineffective. Again, ineffective career politicians has to go. There are plenty of young people. Give these young kids a chance to come in. Their mindset is different. They are about the people. They are about change. This is the only way that we as people
Yes.
of color are going to see a change, is if we get rid of these people who ain't doing nothing but giving us some turkeys and who help you fill out
Yes.
some rent rebates. You know, they're not really concerned about your issues.
Right.
And really changing
Right.
the narrative or the neighborhood. You know why? Because in my area, that they sold the whole area out. So
Right.
now the area, we went through this huge gentrification and acting, and it's only on my block. I have a small block, 4 black houses on the street.
and that was
Child, what in
Westfield
the world?
down
And
here.
was like, yo, what in the world? Here y'all come. Y'all everywhere. But again, and then you built the youth study center. You didn't have no town hall meetings about that because everybody would have showed up. We didn't want that.
But see, what I noticed is they don't have town hall meetings when they're going to do something in the neighborhood where most of the people. If you're a renter, let me just say something to people who rent. You are disrespected by your city officials and your government. I'm just going to say it. You're not included. You're not a homeowner. They feel like because you're not a homeowner, you're and I'm not saying all of them, but I'm just saying when they do a lot of things in the neighborhood, they base it on home ownership. When they send funding to neighborhoods and different things like that, they look at the neighborhood based on who owns it, and then the school districts, who's the owner. And a lot of the reason why our school districts don't have money because most of the people in our neighborhood are renters. So they'll say, okay, we're not paying real estate taxes because you're renting. But the landlord and the owner of their property is paying real estate taxes. Somebody is paying real estate taxes on their property. So therefore, the schools in there and the city has high taxes. So therefore, our school district should have good education. I don't care if the person that's living in the house is renting because they're paying the landlord's mortgage.
That's right. That's right.
And the idea that they should be considered not worthy of good schools and things like that in their area based on the fact that they're renting is just preposterous to me.
It is.
It's preposterous.
It is.
It's I feel like it's disrespectful to people because you pay rent. It's like you don't pay. You pay taxes. You go in the store and you buy stuff at the store. You pay taxes.
That's right. That's right.
When you pay your landlord his rent, hopefully he paying taxes
Okay.
and he ain't one of them
And if he ain't,
landlords
that ain't
that ain't got a lien, but it ain't on you. You know what I'm saying? But you should be respected regardless because
Exactly.
you are putting into the funding of this city. You are spending money in the city. You are pushing to make the economy in this city work, and you should not be slighted because you're not a homeowner. And the city don't really try to help minorities own their homes in their neighborhoods either.
No, they don't. They
Because
don't
if you
tell
own your
anything.
neighborhood, you can change everything. Like, if you buy your houses in your neighborhood, you can change the way those schools are. You can change those elected officials that's in your
And
neighborhood.
even
You
if
can
they
change it all.
had a meeting to say, listen, before you study, Janie, she sold us out. I'm sorry, but she did. If you had a meeting to say, hey, this is what the plan is in the next 2 to 3 years. Get you some money, buy you another piece of property.
Right.
Just sit on it because they're trying to come in and change things. No. And by the time everybody found out, it's too late because everything is just about gone.
You know what they did? They put it on the SEPTA trains and them little signs up. Because when you're on the subway, they got them little SEPTA community meeting signs up there. All these meetings, and they have like in little small print. They say, we about to take y'all neighborhoods meeting at 7. And no, and don't say that. But I mean, I've seen like things like that.
Yeah,
so and they do those charter rule questions.
They do.
And I'm gonna tell you something about those charter rule questions on. Now I'm going to toot my horn a little bit and say I'm a pretty intelligent chick. But the way they word those questions on those charter rule election, and they want you to vote on a question.
I'm quite sure most people scam over. They just like, okay, or just pick yes or no. No, you better read
I don't want to scam over it, but I ain't gonna lie. I got to read it at least 3 times to try to understand
but at least you won't
what
do
they're
that.
saying.
But most people aren't going to do that.
Exactly.
If they don't understand it, they just going to.
And when you don't read those questions probably said they gonna come and take all y'all stuff, but in a fancy worded way, we about to come in here and take up all of y'all voting yes or no. Y'all, and you don't know what to say. Yes, oh yes. They want us to come in and change the neighborhood. But and you know what's the sad part is because a lot of people feel like, oh well, the people in those neighborhoods, they're not, they don't want their neighborhoods to look better. They don't want nice things in their neighborhood. We do. We want nice stuff, but we're not dumb. We know that when they come in and they raise those prices of those houses, those houses are not for us. Exactly. They're not fixing those townhouses up for a person who might have a good job who might have a little mediocre job on Section 8, and their landlord might want to rent them. They're not doing that. So, because, that's not what they're doing. They're coming in, buying properties for $10,000, fixing it up, and putting $40,000, $50,000 in it, and then they selling it for $350,000.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. It's
so
something has to be done. Again, we got to get.
And they don't have to pay taxes.
Career politicians who only send out something maybe once. It's not even quarterly that they send out a newsletter. Maybe twice a year they'll send out a newsletter to say this is what's going on. But even when they do that, it should be a booklet because we need to know what you're doing on our behalf. Let us know what kind of bills you present. What have you done in Congress for us?
Right.
Whether we're on the phone or if you call them and they take forever to get back to you. And thankfully, I've had some interaction with Joanna McClintock's office here lately, and I love Joanna. The office is great, office staff. She's out in the trenches. She's about prison reform. So if you're in her district, y'all vote for her because she's young, she's fresh, she's articulate, she's intelligent, and she's about her people. And Bernard, the young man, hopefully he was elected. Y'all get out here and so this is what I'm saying. Get rid of these career politicians. Give these young people a chance to do something else. We used to have clean the street. They block. And the city would give you trash bags and the wire brooms, the big push brooms. They don't do that anymore.
They don't have no money.
So they say.
They fixing the
streets. They ain't even paying their darn employees a decent wage. But anyway,
but we're gonna get back on that topic with the election results next week because. Why don't we know who our elected officials are yet in our
this is ridiculous.
Neighborhood? Because that election was quite a while ago. And, see, that's the kind of stuff I don't like. Because usually when it's election, they run all the tab while we watching it. But with all this stuff going on, we didn't get a chance to really find out who our elected officials are. So next week, when we come back, we will be talking about who our elected officials are. And we will also be talking about some hot topics that's going to be on track for next week. And also, I want to let everyone see our new WillPower shirts. We have our new WillPower shirts, guys. So,
and this is Good Water.
And don't forget the
Dave
Good Water.
Miller. Y'all support him.
And we'll see you guys next week.